The charcoal smell was still in my clothes 3 days later. July 4th, 6:42 p.m., 91 degrees, and my father's voice carried over the sound of someone's badly chosen fireworks app. 15 people heard him say it. I counted them once, afterward, like it mattered. Maybe now you'll stop pretending you're better than this family. I didn't say anything. I set my paper plate down on the picnic table, square with the edge, like it belonged there. Then I drove home in silence with potato salad still in the passenger seat. What none of them knew, what none of them had bothered to ask in 9 years, was that I wasn't unemployed because I'd failed. I'd told them I'd lost my job to see who would show up, and the only person who did wasn't anyone I expected. Welcome back to Home of Secrets. I'm Mara, 34, a corporate restructuring consultant from Portland, Oregon. This is the story of how I tested my family with a lie, found out who I actually had, and then found out exactly what they'd been hiding from me for 6 years. If you've ever wondered who'd show up if you had nothing left to offer, stay with me. Drop a comment when you get to the part with the letter, and subscribe, because it gets worse before it gets better. I was the kid who fixed things. Tyler, 2 years older, was the kid who got celebrated for almost fixing things. When I was 11, I won a regional math Olympiad. 2nd place out of 400 kids. My mother put the certificate in a kitchen drawer, under the takeout menus, and never mentioned it again. The same week, Tyler got cut from JV baseball after 1 season, and my parents threw him a tryout for varsity next year dinner, like the disappointment itself was an achievement. I worked through college, 2 jobs, a 3.91 GPA, no help from home. Tyler dropped out of a business program after 18 months, and my parents called it finding himself. When I graduated, no one came. When Tyler started his own contracting company at 26, really just him and a borrowed truck, they took out a loan to throw him a launch party. I kept the math certificate. I found it years later in a box I packed up the day I moved out at 22, still creased from the kitchen drawer. I don't know why I kept it. I think some part of me believed I'd need proof, someday, that I existed before I was useful. By the time I was 27, I'd built a career doing the kind of work nobody romanticizes. Corporate restructuring. The unglamorous math of keeping failing companies alive. I was good at it. I made good money. And from the outside, my family looked stable. Comfortable house. Paid-off cars. Tyler's thriving company. What nobody outside the 4 of us knew was that I was the reason any of it was stable. It started small. A $4,200 roof repair the year I turned 28, after my father said, almost casually, that they might have to sell the house. I transferred the money before I'd even thought it through. Then, it was the property tax bill the next spring. $3,100. Then Tyler's business needed a bridge loan. $18,000, which became $31,000, 18 months later, when the bridge became a permanent fixture. By 30, I was covering my parents' mortgage outright, $1,640 a month, automated, invisible, a recurring transfer I labeled VOS, household, in my own budgeting software, like it was a line item in someone else's life. I told myself it was temporary. I told myself it was what good daughters did. If you've ever been the one quietly holding a family together, while everyone else got the credit for standing near it, you already know what this feels like. It doesn't feel like generosity. It feels like a job with no end date and no acknowledgement clause. The humiliations were small enough to swallow individually. At my cousin's wedding, my aunt introduced me to a stranger as Diane's other kid, the one who does something with spreadsheets. At Easter, my mother thanked Tyler, in front of the table, for always making sure everyone's taken care of. The same week I'd wired $2,800 to cover his quarterly taxes. By the 9-year mark, the number was $186,400. I know the number exactly because I tracked it exactly, not because I expected repayment, because some part of me, even then, knew I'd need the record. I lost my actual job that May. A layoff, 11 years of restructuring work, ended by a 5-minute Zoom call and a severance package. I didn't tell anyone right away. I wanted to see something first. So at the 4th of July barbecue, in front of my parents' neighbors, my aunt and uncle, Tyler and his girlfriend, and roughly a dozen others, I said it plainly. I got laid off in May. I don't have a job right now. There was a pause. Someone's sparkler hissed out in the grass. My mother looked at my father. My father set down his beer with a kind of theatrical care, like he'd rehearsed this moment his whole life, and finally got to perform it. Maybe now you'll stop pretending you're better than this family. 15 people heard that. 15 people went quiet. Not one of them said a word in my defense. Not my aunt, who I'd helped move twice. Not Tyler, who at that exact moment had a car in his driveway I had personally financed the down payment on. Just the low hum of a badly timed fireworks playlist, and the particular silence of people deciding it was safer to look at their plates. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. Not there. I picked up my paper plate, walked it to the trash can myself, said a flat "thank you for having me" to my mother, and drove home. What I didn't tell them, what I hadn't told anyone, was that the layoff came with a severance package worth 14 months of my old salary and 3 job offers already sitting in my inbox. I wasn't testing whether they'd help me survive. I was testing whether they even knew who I was, without a paycheck attached. They just answered that question completely. The following Monday, I did what I do professionally. I restructured. I canceled the automated mortgage transfer to my parents' account, the $1,640 a month that had run, uninterrupted, for 6 years. I called the bank that held Tyler's business loan and confirmed in writing that I would no longer be making the supplemental payments that had kept it out of default for 2 years. I didn't call to explain. I sent 2 emails, to my parents, to Tyler, each one sentence long. As of August 1st, I will no longer be covering these payments. Please make alternate arrangements. No accusations. No history lesson. Just an effective date. The way you'd notify a vendor their contract wasn't renewing. I opened a spreadsheet that night, the same kind I'd build for a client facing insolvency, and labeled the tab Voss Family Exposure. 9 years of transfers, dates, amounts, running total. Not for revenge, for clarity. I needed finally to see the whole shape of what I'd been carrying. $186,400. In black and white, in a 12-point font, completely unreconciled with anything I'd ever been thanked for. By mid-August, the story my parents told the extended family had nothing to do with money. My aunt called it Mara, having some kind of breakdown. My mother told a neighbor I'd always been jealous of Tyler, and was punishing the family over something unspecified. Tyler posted a vague paragraph about fake people who disappear when things get hard, and 11 relatives liked it. I didn't respond to any of it. Not publicly, not privately. I kept building the spreadsheet, bank statements, transfer confirmations, the loan paperwork Tyler had once forwarded me for reference years earlier, and I'd quietly saved. I want to be clear about why I didn't defend myself, not because I didn't care what they thought, but because I'd learned, professionally, that you don't argue with a narrative. You out-document it. The only person who reached out that whole month wasn't on the group chat at all. It was Eli, my cousin, 29, the one everyone in the family called the disappointment, because he'd dropped out of college, struggled with addiction in his early 20s, and now worked as a diesel mechanic 2 towns over. He texted me a single line. Heard what happened. You good? No agenda. Just asking. We met for coffee. He didn't ask for anything. He just listened, and somewhere in that conversation, he mentioned almost in passing that Grandma Voss, who died 6 years earlier, had told him once that she was leaving the house to the one who actually shows up. He'd assumed it was a saying. I didn't. That sent me looking. I requested the county property records the next week, the kind of document pull I'd done for clients 100 times. The house, my parents' house, the one I'd been quietly paying the mortgage on for 6 years, wasn't fully theirs. It had been my grandmother's, refinanced into my parents' name 2 months after her death, with a signature on the transfer paperwork that was supposed to be mine, as co-inheritor, witnessing the transfer. I had never seen that document. I had never signed it. My grandmother's actual will, filed separately and apparently never executed, left the house jointly to Mara and whichever family member shows genuine care for one another. Language her attorney later told me was unusual, but legally binding once probated. My parents had filed a simpler, forged version instead, 6 years earlier, betting correctly that I'd never go looking. I sat in my car outside the records office for 11 minutes before I called a lawyer. The lawyer, a probate specialist named Carol Itzen, confirmed it within 2 weeks. The original refinance document bore a signature that wasn't mine, notarized by someone who'd since lost their license for unrelated reasons. My grandmother's actual will, once located in the county archive, named me directly, while Carol filed the petition to void the fraudulent transfer. Something else happened on its own. My parents, no longer receiving my $1,640 a month, fell behind on the mortgage. They didn't fully understand. They didn't legally own. By October, the house, the same house at the center of the forged document, was scheduled for a county auction. 6 months of missed payments, $9,840 behind, foreclosure proceedings already underway, before my probate claim ever reached a judge. Tyler called me 11 times in 9 days. The calls ranged from guilt, "You're going to let Mom and Dad lose the house," to threats, "I'll tell everyone what you did with that money," to a final performative apology that arrived as a 4-paragraph text I read once and didn't answer. I didn't engage. I prepared. Carol confirmed the probate claim, gave me standing to bid at the auction as rightful co-owner of record, my legal claim, now a matter of public filing. I withdrew $61,000 from savings, money that ironically existed because I'd stopped giving it away in August. The auction was held on the courthouse steps on a Tuesday morning in October. 11 people in attendance, including my parents, who'd come hoping a relative would simply pay off the arrears and hand the house back. Tyler stood beside them, arms crossed, the same posture from the barbecue. The auctioneer opened the bidding at $9,840, the amount owed. I raised my hand at $61,000, the full appraised value, before anyone else could speak. There was no other bidder. My parents hadn't realized I could legally do this until Carol stepped forward and explained calmly that as the documented co-inheritor of record SAS, pending a fraud finding already filed with the county, I had every right to purchase the property outright. My father said quietly, the same 5 words from July. "You think you're better." I didn't let him finish it this time. "I'm not better," I said. "I'm just the one who actually shows up. Grandma wrote that down 6 years ago. You just didn't expect me to find it." My mother started to cry. Tyler said nothing at all. The first time in 9 years, I'd seen him with nothing to say. The forgery case moved through the county within 4 months. The notary's records corroborated Carol's findings. My parents avoided criminal charges by signing a settlement, acknowledging the original will's validity, and ceding any claim to the property. Tyler's business, no longer artificially propped up by $31,000 a year in invisible support, folded within 5 months. He now works for a contractor in Salem. I own the house outright. I don't live in it. I rent it to a family for less than market rate, mostly because the idea of profiting further off that address feels wrong in a way I haven't fully worked out yet. What I gained wasn't the house. It was Eli, who I now see most weeks, and his sponsor's wife, Renata, who runs a small auto shop he works at, a shop I quietly invested $40,000 into this spring. The first time in my life I've put money into someone without a single string attached, and felt nothing but lighter for it. I still have the math certificate. It's framed now, on my office wall, next to the probate ruling. It's been a year. I have a new job, a board-level restructuring role I actually enjoy. I have a small, strange, chosen family that includes one cousin. Everyone else wrote off as a disappointment and turned out to be the only one who showed up unconditionally. Family isn't the people who share your last name. It's the people who show up when there's nothing in it for them. If you've ever been the one holding everything together while someone else got the credit, you already know this story didn't end the way anyone at that barbecue expected. It ended the way the people who actually deserved something always do, quietly and on the record. If this story meant something to you, share it with someone who needs it. Drop a comment below and subscribe. There's more where this came from.